Is it fill in the things?
Okay, good evening, everyone. We're going to go ahead and call to order the Sacramento Regional Transit District Board meeting for Monday, May 22nd, 2017. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Director Budge is marked as being absent. Director Hanson. Here. Director Harris. Here. Director Hume. Here. Director Jennings. Director Kennedy is marked as being absent. Director Miller. Here. Director Natoli. Director Chenier is marked as being absent. Director Cerna.
Here.
Chair Morin.
Here.
With that, we have a quorum at, I believe it's 90 votes. 90 votes. This meeting of the Sacramento Regional Transit District will be cablecast without interruption on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel, and will be streamed live on RT's website. Tonight's meeting will air on Wednesday, May 24th at 6 p.m. on Channel 14 and webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv. It is also closed caption. Members of the audience wishing to address the board should fill out a speaker card located at the rear of the room and provide it to me or Adam. Please speak into the microphone and state your name for the record. We would appreciate everyone turning off their cell phones.
All right, thank you, Cindy. So would everyone please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
That's 9.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Okay, so we will begin with the public addresses of the board on matters not on the agenda. I do have a number of requests to speak on this, so we will start off with Jeffrey Tartagia. After Jeffrey is Dennis Neufeld, and after Dennis is Rick Stevenson. So Jeffrey. Good evening, Jeffrey.
Jeff Tartagia. Well, I got to see half the board, but we'll offer to over there to, so I guess Mark, this replacing Henry for today is I like what you did with 30, but please get there more advertising out there. And I do want to make the suggestion on the 30 that because of the coming weekend with the, that you might want to consider also altering where it goes from the Sac Valley station to 6th Street and J Street so you can avoid the whole Sac downtown interference this weekend with the music going on downtown. It's just a suggestion. I think the suggestion's in place, but please get some better addresses out there. Please, I hope that you, in the general manager's report, you address how long the elevator has been out and how long it's going to take to fix it and how much it's going to take a cost, because that's been something I know was the first thing I brought to Henry's attention before he was even general manager. The next thing I will offer and talk a little bit about and say is this planning and communication. How well did things work out for Broadway and other events this weekend? I know I ended up with 3 separate times of encountering RT people because someone, should we say, collapsed on a ramp. RT was there and paramedics came. Sac Valley Station, there was interaction through there. RT people were there, so something that has not been in the past prevalent. I see and I appreciate what I'm observing more closely now. I hope when we get to these two budget presentations that you will like from the city that had a $18 million contract with RT that's multi-year, that it will be explained when the budget sessions about how many multi-years, just like today in item 2, you're going to have a multi-year contract put forward, that it explained in the budget and line item budgets for last year to this year because of the alteration and change from the GS4 to other things that you're using. And I certainly hope that we do not have more consulting service used before you've gone through better public outreach. I think the STA is on the wrong track, and I hope RT will not be on the wrong track of going after consulting rather than utilizing as much public contact. And lastly, for Steve, I hope that either this Thursday or in June, that when the paratransit board meeting occurs, that you will use public transportation to get there and get back, so you can see that it is doable, but also that what it's like.
All right, thanks, Jeff. Dennis Neufeld. After Dennis is Rick Stevenson, and after Rick is Mike Barnbaum. Good evening, Dennis.
Good evening. The last meeting I was here, I passed out a budget for $150 million for the streetcar plus the current $200 million you folks got. I've added a question on that chart. First of all, I pointed out the small capital contribution by the city of Sacramento of $7 million. It used to be $37 million back when it was earlier, but Measure B did not pass. The city had to scramble to fill in the funding gap, ending up with a $30 million cap and trade contribution and the $25 million from RT's Prop 1A funds. Now that $25 million RT funding commitment, I understand, has not yet officially been approved by this board. And the key question is, how did this $25 million donation or get it included in the amended application for $200 million for the streetcar project without having approval from this board? According to SACOG, RT submitted the application, not SACOG, and it was submitted by RT's Ed Schofield. Another question, who gave Mr. Schofield authority to include RT's $25 million Prop 1A money as local matching money when the board hadn't yet approved spending these monies, which I understand is going to be June 12th. To the public, this looks like RT spending decisions are made kind of in the back rooms, far from public view. And is there a two-tier decision-making process between RT management, SACOG, and other unidentified parties? Is this board, especially those of you from outlying cities, being excluded from discussions, and candidly, is the next meeting nothing more than a political charade? If Mr. Schofield's application didn't have board authority, then was its submission to the federal agency legal? And in the real estate trade, this kind of paperwork jujitsu is called fraud upon the lender. Accordingly, because of the city of Sacramento's such strong commitment momentum to the streetcar project, and obviously has a conflict of interest, in the June vote of this Proposition 1A spending decision, we respectfully request that the 4 city council members on the board from Sacramento recuse themselves from the June 12th vote. This is the only honorable way to resolve this conflict of interest matter.
Thanks, Dennis. Rick Stevenson. Following Rick is Mike Barnbaum.
Yeah, just a quick comment about transparency process. Over the last, 3 weeks ago, I made a number of calls to Mr. Schofield of RT staff trying to get some information about the FTA application for the streetcar. I have never gotten a word back or contact of any type. And so we had to go to Public Records Act request, bringing in the lawyers and everything, because a simple thing just couldn't be bothered to return a call. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Rick. Mike. After Mike is Barbara Sand. Evening, Mike.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you, Chair Moore and members of the board. Mike Barnbaum, founder of Ride Downtown 916. And speaking of the downtown area, there were some service changes approved on May 8th at the Yolo County Transportation District, which affect route alignments through downtown Sacramento. After an informational discussion before the West Sacramento City Council on April 14th, and an open house in West Sacramento during the time of your last board meeting, the Yolo County Transportation District Board approved a staff recommendation for a concept of a downtown shuttle, which would be service on weekdays every 20 minutes using the hourly service of Route 40, Route 41, and Route 240 by streamlining the route alignment from the West Sacramento Transit Center to downtown Sacramento, operating under the alignment of what they now call the Y Shuttle. The service changes will take effect on the 30th of July, and as part of that, Route 340 and Route 340A, the Ziggurat Shuttle and Ziggurat Shuttle that loops into the Sacramento Valley Station, will be eliminated. There will be some future considerations staff will be talking about and perhaps bringing back to their board for the Y Shuttle itself, but we want to let you know about the service changes that will go in effect impacting routing in downtown Sacramento on July 30th. That brings us to the next paper. You each got a one-page list of improvements, which we want to include as part of RT's budget comments, which will be comments will be closing at the end of the next board meeting. So we came up with a list of how to use the budget and improve service with the existing system. Now, we mentioned about the route alignments and YOLO bus will no longer be using the Sacramento Valley Station on July 30th. So here are just some highlights we wanted to give you, and pardon me if I go a little bit over time. Route 51.
Mike, we have a lot of speakers, so no overtime.
Okay. We recommended Route 51 be realigned to operate into the Sacramento Valley Station, and that Route 88 and Route 86 serve North 7th Street in preparation of greater frequency in addition to Route 11 if, in fact, our MLS stadium is constructed by 2020.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah,
thanks, Mike.
And more on the list that you could see if you have any questions.
Thanks, we got the sheets. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Okay, Barbara. Following Barbara is Russell Rawlings.
Good evening, Chair and Directors. I'm going to bring to your attention the East Elevator outage at Watton I-80. It is an issue that RT did not do more to alert the public to the issue and did a disservice to the riders. When we found out the elevator was out, we went to the station, and we saw one sign up against the elevator that said, "Temporary out of service, catch the special shuttle bus." Didn't say where it was, what it was doing, or nothing. So we reached out to Mark Lonigan, and he put up the sign that said, "Due to equipment failure, the shuttle bus runs every 20 minutes. Well, that's a good start, but we didn't really get a schedule or where does the bus stop or not stop. So we still find this still inadequate. The public should be told why the elevator was out, how long it was going to be down, where to get the shuttle, a timeline for the shuttle schedule, just like RT provides a schedule for each route, not just every 20 minutes. And we would like to see that now because we don't know how long the elevator is going to be out still, and as well as in the future, because RT has many resources they could use to alert the public. You have a service alert email system, you have signs, electric signs, you have bus drivers that could say, oh, by the way, when you get to the station, the elevator is out. You can just post it everywhere. But that was not done, and we feel that it's a real disservice to the public not to do that. Thank you.
Thanks, Barbara. Russell, can we get Russell some sound there? Thanks, Adam. Good evening, Russell.
Good evening, board. My name is Russell Rawlings. I am an RT rider. I'm a member of Sacramento Transit Riders Union, and I'm also a board member of Organized Sacramento. And I'm here this evening to talk to you about your upcoming budget workshops that are listed on the 25th and 31st of the month. We are requesting that RT provide a line item budget at the workshop so that individuals and the community can make informed decisions and evaluate what's going on with RT. We appreciate the previously held workshop at our space as part of the Transit 101 series. But when I did a web search on Google for your transit budget workshops just a moment ago, our event that was well over a month ago came up. But I don't see any result that comes up that even relates to any information regarding when the workshops are. So I would recommend that RT do some serious heavy lifting before Thursday to try to pump some of that information out into the community. Also, I have here a sample of a budget analysis done by the city on the capital improvement project. And as you can see, it's a little weighty and pretty thick. And from what we've seen, RT hasn't been able to produce anything even remotely similar. So I hope that we're working toward being a little bit more transparent and just kind of letting us know what's going on. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Russell. Thanks for the comments. And let's see, after Russell is Arthur Ketterling. And after Arthur is Tammy Dramer.
Name is Arthur Ketterling, live in Citrus Heights, and I would like to mention that I was told by several people in the last week that of your light rail cars and heading down from 65th to about where what I-80 is, there's nothing but trash and garbage and everything. Who's responsible of clean that up there along in that area? Is it RT's responsibility, or is it the city's or county, or what?
You know, we will, Mark.
We'll clean it up.
And they were also saying that they were on the light rail for the first time for a while, but they were saying that it was real nice and clean on the inside, but the outside, some of the cars was really, you couldn't even see out the window. I'm only mentioning of what they said. Okay. And I can get some more information from the party if you want me to.
Yeah, if you could, and get back to us, Arthur. That would be great.
All right. And also, I myself, I would like to mention to you, like there at where you go up and down the stairs at Watt Avenue, that it smells so bad with urine and all I know RT does that part once in a while. Or I should say I see them once in a while doing it, but it's been a while since they've done it, and it's beginning to, you can't even hardly stand it. But otherwise, I appreciate the cleanness that you had been doing and all.
Okay, we're doing our best.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Arthur. Tammy, following Tammy is Timothy Ortiz.
Hi, I'm Tammy Dramer. Well, thank you, gentlemen. So a couple of things. First, on the translation services that Councilmember Budge actually asked about for the RT writers survey that they have online. Sarah, who asked about translation last week, she couldn't be here today. She's on vacation. She actually speaks fluent Chinese. So she called And here's her report back. When she called, she got 45 minutes of English only recording, and then 2 transfer options to talk to a customer advocate or leave a message. And then she waited another 50 seconds and then was on hold for 2 minutes. And then when she finally got in touch with a customer advocate who did not speak Chinese, she wound up asking in English for translation services. And then they hooked her up with the translator to do a three-way translation. And then the translator asked how many questions was the survey, and they were very dismayed that it was 30 questions. And then they asked if they were only yes or no questions, and that they were going to have serious difficulties trying to do something that long. So we need to get that survey translated into the 6 other languages that the SACOG did their survey in 2013. They must have translation services. Perhaps if you don't have them available to you here, you can use theirs. It's always worth an ask. And then the other thing is on the budget workshops that are coming up. They are in the daytime when commuters or choice riders are unavailable. So we want to recommend that maybe you hold a 3rd workshop and have that outside of the primary working hours. And the last thing is really to expand on the line items within the budget. Every other agency gives us way more details than what we're getting, so we'd like to request that again. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Tammy. Timothy, and then Stephen Barassa. Good evening, Timothy.
Hello, good evening, Council. I just wanted to start off by taking note of the things going around in the city, and to let you guys know that yes, you do get what you're told here in the meetings out there in the city. So I did notice that. You know, I've been out there with the best of them, and I can tell you that yeah, things are getting done, getting taken care of. So I just want to thank the council. You know, the Bible says in John 10, chapter 10, verse 10, that Jesus said he came to give us life and life more abundantly. And so, you know, I can see it around the city. Things are getting better. So I just want to thank you and encourage you to continue, you know, doing the good work. Thank you guys very much. Have a great evening. God bless.
Thanks, Timothy. Stephen?
Greetings, Board. Thank you. You know, the Prop 1A funds has been really burning in our minds about where that money's going to go. Is it, you know, going to go to the streetcar? And, you know, I was really moved by Henry Lee's, you know, strategic vision for RT. It just, you know, I shake my head yes, listening to all the items on that list, you know, and how it really appeals towards ridership. And he's reached those goals of cleanliness and safety, and now working on convenience. You know, it just seems there's a lot of projects that this money, you know, it's $25 million plus a federal match of another $25 million. That's $50 million. That's a lot of money that RT could use for other projects. I think it's really important that the public is in on this and looking at the different projects and, hey, maybe, you know, what are our priorities for RT and ridership? And, you know, there's the SVS station loop. There's the double tracking of the Gold Line to Folsom. There's station modifications, you know, and I don't know what applies to Prop 1A. I know it has to do with interconnectivity with the bullet train. But, you know, a lot of times we think of these big ticket projects as well, when a lot of times it's the smaller things that are really important, like IT solutions, real-time train arrivals, and Wi-Fi at stations and on trains, on the cars. Or Connect Card vending machines where you can put cash in and upload your Connect Card that way as well. So it's the little things that people don't notice that make a big difference for the RT experience. You know, there's the son of Measure B tax measure people are hoping for. I don't know if the forecast is as rosy for that this time around. I mean, it's a governor race. I don't know if there's a strong contender, and you know, there's other tax measures competing for that money this time around. So, you know, RT really needs to be really stringent with its funds, spend them wisely. the streetcar group is very adept at getting money for their project. They're very skilled. This is what they do, and I'm sure there'll be other opportunities for them to get money for this project. But RT should not be sacrificed for that. I hope this item doesn't get buried on the consent calendar next, on the 12th. I hope it gets the input and discussion that's worthy for this amount of money. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Stephen. Okay, so that concludes business from the floor. So next item, please.
Consent calendar, items 1 through 8, noting that you have speakers on items 2 and 6.
All right, so let's pull those two items for discussion by members of the public. So entertain a motion to move 1, 3, 4, 5, and 7 and 8.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved by Director Hume, seconded by Director Hansen. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Motion carries at 90 votes.
Okay.
Item number 2, resolution awarding a contract for security guard services to Paladin Private Security, and Norm Leong is here to answer your questions.
Okay, so we have about 5 speakers requesting time on this. So Maggie Coulter, I think it was Maggie. Yes, Maggie. Barbara Stanton, and then Harry Wong.
Yeah, I'm Maggie Coulter with Sac Human and Fran Eldridge, and we've got some other folks here tonight. We want to thank RT staff, particularly Henry Lee, Norm Leong, Fernando Barcena, for their work on taking the over $3 million that RT was spending on private security and creating in-house jobs with most of that, and then hiring a truly local company for RT's remaining few private security needs. We also want to thank the local unions who put a lot of effort into that to bring those jobs in-house. And I also want to say, as a taxpayer and a community member, I personally appreciate those of you who met with us, especially board members Natoli and Cerna, who met with us twice, and also Mr. Morin and Mr. Miller met, and former board member McGlashan met with us, and Mr. Jennings made his staff available. It really is important that you take the time personally to meet with your constituents, and I think it really says a lot when you do that. And so I really want to appreciate that. And of course, Henry and Norm and Fernando spent a lot of time with us as well. So contracting with local companies, hiring in-house, and contracting with companies that are socially responsible are all important to the community, and you've been hearing that from us for the last year and a half. So we got two out of the 3 of those, and we look forward to RT working on developing that socially responsible contracting criteria in the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Maggie. Barbara, Harry Wong, and then Jeffrey Tardigia.
Here again. We concur with staff's choice and recommendation for Paladin Security Services. They are a local company, and they have been patrolling in my neighborhood, which is Old North Sacramento, for many years. And they've also been contracted by the Wood Lake people, some of the residents there, to patrol their area. And so it is our opinion that they will fit in with item 6 on the agenda for patrolling after hours at light rail stations and other retail RT, resources. The only question I have is 60% of them are armed. So are they going to be patrolling armed? And if so, will they be wearing body cameras? So that's the only questions I have for that. But we do concur with Paladin. They are good. Thank you.
Okay. Harry, and then Jeffrey Tardigia and Rick Hodgkins. Good evening, Harry.
Hi, Chair Morin and RT board members and staff. My name is Harry Wong. I'm the president of the Sacramento chapter of Physicians for Social Responsibility, and I would like to second what's already been said, and especially what Maggie Coulter covered. We know that you're very busy, and just the experience I've gotten the last 18 months coming and hearing what you do, you have a big agenda. So we really appreciate the time that you spent in these meetings and the meeting with us individually, and we really feel like we were listened to. And I also want to especially thank RT staff for all the meetings that we spent, and especially Norm, Captain Leong, for really how he was able to restructure the contracts in a way that met everyone's needs. We take pride in being part of a diverse community that values equality, human rights, and ethical business practices. So we really commend the proposal and hope that you will consider these criteria when you look at future contracting. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Harry. Jeffrey, and then following Jeffrey is Rick.
Communication, planning, rewards when you talk to your public and what you get back from it. One of the things I talk to you about this is because this is a multi-year contract, and being I was at City Council, know that there is 22 plus for a multi-year $18 million contract going forward for RT that I believe will be discussed at the next RT board meeting. But I want to encourage that is in the budget discussion items of what multi-year contracts look like, because they do have impact ongoing on looking at and knowing from last year changing over. It may be a little difficult to discern the budget item of security then to how you are directing it now. I just bring that up as this one contract, and knowing that also that city has approved, a $18 million RT contract as well. That's multi-year, and that was basically back to last January. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. All right, Rick. There we go. Good evening, Rick.
Yeah, I would have to somewhat echo. Good evening. I'd have to somewhat echo Jeff's comments. I want to remind him, as well as everyone here, that the contract that the city of Sacramento has with Regional Transit is for their police, the SAC PD, to be at light rail stations just as well as on board light rail trains. I would also note that the county, with their sheriff's department, I think has a similar contract too. With that said, I do have one question. Is the security firm Paladin, they're not headquartered in other states or other countries, are they? Are they headquartered here in Sacramento? I think I would. Okay. I know Barbara said yes, hopefully.
Hold on, we'll get an answer from Mark.
Paladin is a local company in Sacramento.
That makes me feel much better, because as Scott Yatuma said over a year and a half ago, we should never be sending our tax dollars to not only other countries, but I would add, we shouldn't be sending our tax dollars elsewhere in this country either. We need to keep them local. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Okay, a motion for consent item 2.
Second.
Okay, moved by Director Cerna, seconded by Director Hansen. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Motion carries at 90 votes.
All right. Next.
Item number 6, ordinance 170501, amending Title 15 of RT's Administrative Code, prohibition of specified acts committed in or on RT vehicles or facilities, to amend the definitions of inspector, paid fare zone, and proof of fare payment, and to prohibit loitering in light rail stations during non-operational hours. And Tim Spangler is here to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. And Helen O'Connell, can we get Helen a microphone there? Great. Good evening, Helen.
Good evening, Helen O'Connell. I just have a question. If being in the light rail area, catching a train, having to have fare, would that eliminate people that are canvassing for voter registration, public input on bus systems, things like that? I'm concerned that it might limit access to people that are riding the trains.
Got an answer for Helen?
Yeah, we're currently working on an expressive conduct policy that will cover that, provide an area of the light rail station for expressive conduct. So the idea is not to shut down on any sort of First Amendment activity per se, but it is to make sure that the boarding area is free for what our main mission is, which is getting people on and off the train safely. And so within the confines of that, we will be working on a policy that does carve out some areas for First Amendment activity.
Great, thanks, Tim. Okay, motion for item 6 under consent.
So moved.
Moved by Director Cerna, seconded by Director Miller. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions?
Motion carries at 90 votes. Next item is the General Manager's Report, item number 9, and Mark Lonergan is here to present.
Good evening, members of the board and the public here tonight. I'm filling in for Mr. Lee, who, along with several board members, are attending a conference in Seattle. I just have a few announcements to make on RT's behalf. We don't really have any government affairs update as it relates to state or federal action. I do have a few announcements that I think everyone will find interesting. First of all, Memorial Day, we are offering free rides to veterans and their family members in honor of the day. And so that's very exciting. It's part of a number of, 10 free ride days that the board has approved for military and senior individuals and individuals with disabilities that we'll be scheduling in the upcoming months. The second announcement I'd like to make is that we're having a public press event on June 9th at our 16th Street station at 9:30 in the morning, and that's to talk about some of what we've talked about a little bit here tonight with respect to our expanded transit agent program and the addition of the paid fare zone that was just voted on a few minutes ago. So we want to highlight some of what is a continuing expansion of measures we're taking to improve security on the system. And then I'd like to invite Wendy Williams up now to talk a little bit about the June 7th event, the Transit Means Business event, as an update as well. So come on up, Wendy. Wendy is new to RT. She's our Director of Marketing.
Hello.
Good evening, Wendy.
Norman. Good evening. And members of the board. I wanted to tell you a little bit about Transit Means Business. It's a luncheon that's being sponsored by Sacramento Regional Transit along with the Metro Chamber of Commerce. It isn't your normal luncheon. We have a keynote speaker coming in who is John Martin. He is the CEO of the Southeastern Institute of Research. He's an acclaimed futurist who knows a lot about emerging trends among generations such as millennials. He knows through his research that millennials like urban centers, they like living and working in them, and he knows that they like good public transportation. And so that's going to be the focus of his address. He's also going to be talking about how a first-class city needs a first-class transit system, and so there's a real natural relationship or a partnership between the business community and public transit. And so for us here at RT, that's our way of using it as a jumping-off point, a catalyst, if you will, to developing future relationships with the business community of the Sacramento region. So while we're trying to beef up some ticket sales, and we're doing quite well, we've sold over 300 tickets, but we're looking for 600, and I think we're doing really well at that. We created a video that's a minute and a half long, and we've pushed it out to all of our social media centers and to our partners through the Chamber of Commerce. So tonight we wanted to show you that. We also cut it into a 60-minute commercial spot that we're going to run on CBS 13 in the news segment. And that's going to start on the 24th of March and go through June 2nd. So that's, again, to push sales, but also not just to push the luncheon, but to showcase regional transit as being a transformative agency, one that is going to be a partner in the business community. So I'd like you to see this video.
Transit means business. And if you don't understand what I'm saying, you don't understand what you don't know. Because researchers like me all across America have figured out that transit is really the heart of the future of economic development and the future of business success. Join me, John Martin, your keynote speaker, on June 7th for the Transit Means Business Luncheon in Sacramento. I'm going to share deep insights about millennials, why they're attracted to certain cities and why they're attracted to certain areas of employment and even specific employers. Millennials prefer city living in activity centers, as you can see by the significant downtown Sacramento and midtown revitalization. And they expect multimodal transportation options where they live, work, learn, and play. This is just one reason why Sacramento Regional Transit is undergoing a major transformation and is committed to becoming a world-class transit system. Find out what the future could promise at the upcoming luncheon, co-hosted by the Metro Chamber and SAC-RT. I promise to leave you with research-inspired insights that'll give your business a marketplace advantage in attracting and retaining millennials. I can't wait to see you there.
So I guess the call to action is June 7th. Mark your calendars. We would love to have as much participation as possible from our board of directors. I'm available for any questions you might have.
Great. Thanks, Wendy. Any questions for Wendy? All right.
I have something for
Sure.
Mark. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mark, I just noted in the printed staff report for the general manager's update, it should say the Sacramento Metropolitan Arts Commission is the partner, not the city of Sacramento.
Yeah, that's true, and we are actually, this is for the
Art Rap program.
The Art Rap program. And
Board approved in October 2015?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this one's been difficult to get off the ground. We're excited, though. We'll be wrapping 4 trains in original art in the not-too-distant future, and that contract's progressing between our 2 agencies.
Thank you for your work on it. I just wanted to make sure that the record was corrected to show the Arts Commission.
Thank you. Our next item under the General Manager's report is our performance update. It's being presented by David Goldman, who's our Director of Office of our OMB, Office of Management and Budget.
Good evening, David.
Good evening. I'm filling in for Brett tonight. And before he left, he talked to me and told me that whenever there's bad news to present to the board, that'll be my job. Just kidding. Let's see.
And that concludes Mr. Goldman's presentation.
So, as you can see, let's see if I can get this pointer to work. As you can see in the bottom here where it says net operating surplus, you could barely see it actually. We're looking at about $100,000 surplus for the month of April. Our income was about $13.4 million, and our expenses were about $13.3 million. Fare revenue was under budget by about $200,000, but it's still about $358,000 over last year, April 2016 fare revenue number. April 2017 did have 1 less weekday. Spring break also was in April of this year. And also Golden One Center events were less than they were in March. So that might explain some of the decreased fare revenues and decreased ridership for the month of April. Contractual services are on budget. Other income is about $100,000 below budget. That's due to the reduction in advertising revenue that's been ongoing throughout the year. State and local revenue is about on budget, and federal revenue is about $50,000 below budget due to 5307 preventative maintenance revenue coming in below the budget. As far as expenses go, our salary and fringes are just about on budget. Our services are about $300,000 under budget due to paratransit being under budget, and also due to security services, due to vacancies in police officers, and outside services being under budget due to light rail, human resource, risk and marketing department areas being under budget. Supplies are on budget. Utilities are over budget by about $58,000, mainly due to traction power. That's due to colder weather compared to last year, and there's more electricity needed to warm up the vehicles. Our insurance and liability is over budget by about $10,000 due to budgeted reimbursements and recoveries from insurance companies. And this account year to date is about $56,000 under budget. And other expenses are about $23,000 over budget due to Connect Card fees. So you can see the fare revenue comparison from April 2017 to April 2016. We're about $400,000 over the comparison period from last year. And year to date, we're just about on budget with significant increase over last year. Our fare box recovery comparison for the month of April was just under 20%, which is better than compared to last year. But for year to date, it's about 21.5%. And our total ridership comparison, you can see that our ridership has declined from 2016 to 2017, and overall year to date, it's also showing a decline.
Okay, questions for David? Yep. Director Hume.
Thank you, Chair. Just one question, David. In the chart that shows the fare revenues from April 2016 to April 2017, there's a pretty big gap between budget and actuals in 2016, and yet it looks like almost the same number was used to forecast for 17. Why didn't we adjust our budget downward to reflect actuals?
Well, the way the budget works is it's, created at the beginning of the year, and there are adjustments per period. We kind of know a little bit about seasonality when it comes to what we should put for the budget for a particular month. And for the month of April, we did make an adjustment downwards for spring break and for other factors as well. That's kind of why you see the budget is almost the same as last year, because last year they did not have the same kind of seasonality for spring break in April. It was a different month.
Yeah, but I guess my overarching question is, had we contracted our budget amount reflecting closer to what the actuals were, then obviously that feeds through to what we have to get our expenses down then, so that then we actually are overperforming rather than coming in, 300,000 under.
The way the budget works is, we create the budget at the beginning of the year and we have to divide it up into 12 different months. So if we were to contract this particular budget down, then that would mean that the budget in May and June would have to be increased, because we do have to hit what the board budgeted for the entire year. So if the board budgeted fare revenue at a certain amount, we can make adjustments throughout the year per month. But in the end, by the time we hit June, the total amount that we put for the year-to-date budget has to be exactly what the board had said at the beginning of the year.
Okay, and I appreciate that point. So I guess what I'm saying is, from my standpoint as a board member, I'd like to be better informed with respect to what the actuals were, so that we're setting more realistic targets rather than coming in saying, well, we didn't make the nut.
Okay, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions for David? Okay. Anything else there, Mark?
No, I think that concludes the GM's report. Thank you.
Okay, do have a couple of requests to speak on this agenda item. Rick Hodgkins, can we get Rick the microphone there? And after Rick is Mike Barnbaum, and then Jeffrey Tartagia. Good evening again, Rick.
Good evening again, Chair Morton, members of the board. If I could have everyone's attention in the room, please. I'd like to point out that while there is no government update on the board, on the general manager's report, I would like to point out that about a week and a half ago, I was riding the 21 from my house to Mather Field, and the bus driver and I were talking about the fact that, in reality, the buses need to run as frequent and as long as light rail runs. But obviously, we've created, or constructed, if you will, a social political reality where the buses don't run as frequent or as long as the light rail. And I wanted to let everyone know that I voted for Measure B last year. But let me tell you why I think that why I found out why Measure B didn't pass. I found out from this bus driver. She does a 21 most of the week between Lewis and Orlando and Mather Field. She said that the reason why Measure B did not pass is because the people, we only got, we didn't get 2/3 vote, because the people that either chose not to vote on it or voted it down thought that that RT was misspending Prop 1A money and perhaps Measure A money. Turns out that money was not misspent. It's because Arnold Schwarzenegger, our former governor, being how feeble-minded that he was, actually took money out of not only Measure A, because I think there was a transit provision in Measure A, but also Prop 1A. And now that I come to think of it, that is perhaps the reason why, and one factor to consider when people decided to not vote on or vote Measure B down. Even though when it comes to the ballot next year, I will vote for it again, because now the legislature has passed a constitutional amendment that will allow for, I believe, a 54% or 50% plus one, as opposed to a 67%, which is a 2/3. The other thing is several people mentioned the elevators at Watt and I-80. I would point out that the elevator closest to where you get off the light rail at Watt and I-80, it was working last Friday. So I would have to assume that the elevator on the east side is down, and I've noticed that myself being down. And finally, I wanted to say that, I live in an area, I would like to move closer to light rail so I wouldn't continue to have issues with the 21 and having to stay out till after hours. But, a lot of people that take light rail, a lot of Section 8 tenants near light rail do not, a lot of landlords near light rail do not take Section 8, so I have to stay where I'm at. So I hope that the 21 is somehow extended, and I took that survey online, just in case you're wondering. Thanks.
Thank you, Rick. Mike Barnbaum, and after Mike is Jeffrey. Looked like Jeffrey is trying to cut in front of you there, Mike, so I want to talk to him about that.
No problem. I don't mind. Thank you, Chair Moore and members of the board. Actually, this is a good transition to the point about the constitutional amendment that was referenced by the previous speaker, Rick Hodgkins. We are following that very closely and actually sign up through an e-server for legislative alerts and updates on SCA 6 by Senator Scott Wiener of San Francisco. On May 10th, the bill was recommended in a committee by an 8-3 vote to be passed out of committee and forwarded on to the next steps. But we came to learn that on May 11th, it was re-referred to the Rules Committee. And back on last Wednesday, it was re-referred to the Appropriations Committee. So it keeps bouncing around. It has not been approved by the full houses of the legislature from the updates we're getting. And we're going to put, hopefully, a call in to the senator's office and either speak to him directly or staff to figure out what is going on and when we could expect that it is passed and put on the ballot next year to a vote of the people. If so, the people have to approve the constitutional amendment by just a 50% plus one vote. But then if that does happen and there is a local transportation measure, say in Sacramento, Placer, whatever county in 2018 or later, then those measures need a 55% vote, similar to school bonds. And that's what we're basing this constitutional amendment on, the success of the school bond process, thanks to Jack O'Connell and Tom Torlakson. So stay tuned, more to come on that. But one testimonial I want to provide about the upcoming event in June. Although I don't consider myself a millennial, born in the mid-'70s and growing up in the '80s. One of the testimonies about great city living is probably a success story of a service a lot of people don't talk about too much, but I'll tell you really quickly about it. Back on May 11th, the Oakland A's announced the ballpark pass, and I took advantage of it from July to September. How am I going to get to 10 games I've chosen? The Capitol Corridor Intercity Rail Service. It's a very traffic-free, hassle-free way to get from downtown Sacramento to the Coliseum, and there could be, later this year, announcement of a ballpark in downtown Oakland.
Okay.
Stay tuned. So when the Republic announces their stadium, there could be an A's announcement of a stadium closer to another Capitol Corridor station.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Jeffrey?
Well, on this theme of appropriations, there was 3 pages today of appropriations started at 11 o'clock. The next, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, there is from 15 to 30 plus pages of appropriations. All of this should have been done at the state legislature by Wednesday for the budget to be approved on Thursday. But Friday is now, there is more than 20 plus pages of appropriations going through. So we'll see what happens there. But to the general manager's report, it would certainly be nice if something is going to be heard about the elevator situation. So I hope that'll be at next board meeting. And indeed, it's not terribly significant since American River Gardens have been probably finished and over. But whether the shuttle service is going to be on the hour and 20 minutes and 40 after, or whether there is any synchronization with light rail to this bus shuttle service at I-80 while it's out. Please help the riders out on that so they know what's going on. Also, it would be nice to have in the general manager's report, as previously, was some of the incidences that occur, some of the what comes up is reporting, dealing with customer advocacy. And also, it'd be nice to hear about on the weekends how many buses are running when they're on an hourly schedule, are running within 15 minutes of the time that they are scheduled for. Thank you, General Manager.
Okay, thanks, Jeffrey. Okay, that concludes speakers on this agenda item.
Andy, Mr. Moore.
Oh, yes. Sorry, Don.
Maybe Mark could just tell us real quickly. We've heard a lot about the elevator tonight, so could you just give us a 30-second as to what the status is and when we might expect that the elevator either be replaced, repaired, or whatever else is going to happen with it?
So at Watt I-80, there are 2 elevators, one on the east and one on the west side. The elevators are original with the starter line, so they're over 30 years old. They are heavily used and very unreliable because of their age. We have a project that is funded that is just in its early stages to replace the cabs and mechanical equipment on both elevators. We hope to have that done by the end of the calendar year. So we have a longer-term plan to repair the elevators. We are required under the Americans with Disabilities Act to run, and we would run it anyway, but there's actually a regulatory requirement to do it, replacement service when the elevators are not functional. And that's the shuttle that folks have been talking about. We operate that shuttle tying into light rail at the lower level, tied into light rail arrivals, so 15 minutes on weekdays and half hour when we're in half-hour service nights and weekends. To move people up to the upper level where the buses are. It's a very awkward shuttle to operate because there's no quick way to go from downstairs to upstairs. So it doesn't always keep the schedule as well as we would like it to keep, but that's what we do. Ms. Stanton was absolutely correct. We've become a little complacent in our public information, which we're trying to correct now in terms of letting people know when the elevator's down and the shuttle's running and how it's tying into light rail. We're actually trying to make the changeable message signs work for us. So in the stations, it would show that the shuttle is running and for which elevator. The little difficulty we're having is keeping that message current, so it's not overwritten when other messages are displayed, and so it's there when it needs to be. So we're working on the way to get that to be reliable. And we can certainly also post something that is less generic in terms of schedule. But that's the short of it. Yeah.
And so did I take from that that elevator's out until it gets replaced?
Oh, no. We're repairing it.
Okay.
The repairs can take some time because of its age. But no, it's repaired every time it goes down. And sometimes it's both. Sometimes it's the east elevator. Sometimes it's the west. But we always make our best endeavor to repair it. It's just not always quick. Understood.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions, comments? Okay, next item.
Next item, item number 10, motion, continue the discussion on the criteria for property naming and corporate sponsorships, naming rights to the June 12, 2017 RT board meeting presented by Wendy Williams.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved by Director Hanson, seconded by Director Hume. Any questions, comments? Okay. Everybody in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions?
Motion carries at 90 votes. Unless there's any reports, ideas, or questions from directors, next is the closed session. And if there are not, I'll make the announcement of closed session.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay. Announce closed session items, public employee performance evaluation titled Chief Counsel, and there will not be a report out of closed session.
All right. Adjourn to closed session. Thank you, everybody.